Hey, everybody, welcome to Talk, Teach, Play. My name is Aaron Locks. I'm the CEO and founder of the National Academy of Athletics, and I'm excited today to have my good friend Cheryl with me. It's always good. Hi, Cheryl.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm just excited because not just the topic, but to get a chance to connect with you. Those who don't know, Cheryl and I actually met via Clubhouse, right? We started talking in Clubhouse, and we've done lots of really cool projects together. In fact, we've written an article that will be published, and Cheryl will share a little bit more about that in a minute. But today's topic is really, kids are going through a hard time right now. And if they play sports, there's so many things that are going on. But what Cheryl and I want to talk about is how to help your coach when they're coaching your child, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what level they're at. It really matters. Our job as a parent is how do we support our kid through the journey, right? Make sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, what I love about Cheryl's background, and we could probably spend 4 hours going through all the stuff that you've done in the research, but gravitational performance, can you just talk a little bit about that so they kind of understand your perspective before we get into the topic?
Yeah, it's a sport organization that I've been running for about 12, 13 years now. And I work with, originally, I just started off working consulting athletes around the US. And today I'm in coaches education and, working in nutrition, sports psychology, sports medicine, just providing the latest research today as a sports research scientist. So really that's what I'm doing with gravitational performance and school sports science.
That's right. And school sports. That's right.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's dig in. I appreciate your time, and I'm glad you're able to join on this. If you're tuning in and you have not already, obviously it would be great if you'd subscribe to the channel. And we'll give you more information how to get more about Cheryl and what she does and me later on. But right now, let's just dig in. So when we talk about helping your child's coach, your athlete's coach, I always like to start off with the mindset of that it's got to be my job as the parent to kind of find a way to support them and make them feel that they're appreciated as we go through the journey. Now, we've written, and there's a lot of different parts on this, but the basic part is that if I can understand what my coach is trying to communicate and make sure that I'm supporting the coach's effort. One of the things I talk about is being like-minded. If the coach says something like, hey, throw the ball to the cutoff in baseball, and I'm as the parent screaming from the sideline, which we'll talk about later, throw it home, it undermines what's going on, right? So really a big part about this is to think about my role model as a parent, and my job is to support the coach in a positive way. And when the coach has something to say, I've got to not automatically take my kid's side, right? I got to find a way to kind of support and say, wait a second, what is your coach really trying to say? Would you agree with that, Cheryl? Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. Yes. And so getting to know your coach is something that we discussed in the article, and we want to connect with the coach. So as parents, we want to make sure that we try to do that beforehand, right? So if you're a parent listening to this, this is definitely for you. So I have some key bullets here, if you will. You want to text or call, email, whatever your coach, prefers technically, but you want to try to develop that parent to coach relationship ahead of time before the season starts, because then they're going to be too busy. Set up a meeting with them, invite them for a lunch, possibly try to get some other parents involved, because that kind of foundation really helps set the tone for coaches and allows them to feel comfortable and supported. You can offer to send out emails every so often for the coach. You can request to be of assistance in whatever the coach needs, something that you're going to be able to do though. And encourage other parents that are part of the team to also jump on board. So it's a team effort, just like your athletes, team effort, right? And then just get to know the coach's personality ahead of time so you can understand what they're going to be like throughout the season. That also showing appreciation, it helps the coach. So
that's a big one for me, which is the appreciation side of thing. And I know it's tough at times because we don't always agree with the coaches, but I think the reality is, like you said, is so important, is especially if it's a volunteer situation where they're volunteering their time to come out and coach your job. I really think we've got to show a lot of gratitude for that. It's really challenging right now. Most coaches that are coaching youth sports, I know through the National Academy of Athletics, when our coaches go through, whether they're working for our programs in partnership with cities, they've got fingerprints and background checks and mandated reporter and concussion protocols and all these hoops they got to jump through, not including, sport specific training or anything.
Right.
And a lot of them, they're out there just kind of going, well, I'm just here to kind of help my kids because no one else would coach, right?
Yep. It's the love of the game for most coaches, really. So we encourage parents to try to jump on board and understand that coaches aren't making a ton of money. They're also working another job. So it's the love of the game, really, for many.
And I think one of the things that's really cool, I think we agree without a doubt that youth sports is by far one of the best life skill training incubators in the world, right? I mean, it really is. So part of that is, as a journey, me as a parent, is to role model good communication, good respect, and gratitude. A perfect example, if you're coaching my daughter and practice is over, I want her to say, thanks, coach. You know what I mean? You value your time, right? And when the coach wants to communicate, right? By the way, if you're a coach out there, I'm going to give you a tip. I think it's very important that you let the parents know that you control when, where, and how long any conversation lasts, right? And so, especially if things aren't going exactly the way you want. But that being said, if you can ingratiate yourself to the parents and kind of explain to them, for me, I always send a letter out to the parents, right? And I would say, hey, everybody, I'm coaching. This is who I am. I'm a real estate agent. If you want to buy a house in town, let me know. Whatever it is. So there's a relationship that's built. You never know, right?
You never know who you're going to meet.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I think it's an important piece of the puzzle. But I would also say it takes a village, right? And this is your village. This is your tribe. And a lot of times these coaches, you're going to be with this coach, not just for this 10-game season, but they may be for years. So it's really important to develop that relationship with the coach. I think that's a real good point to get to know your coach.
Absolutely. Now, the parent to coaching from the sidelines, that's another section we talk about, which is we see it all the time. We hear about it all the time. When parents try to alter the coaches, their teaching process, it really disrupts their teaching process. It can confuse the athletes on the side. So when we see parents on the sidelines yelling out very disruptive, not nice things, they're upset, they're frustrated, whatever, it can take an entire team and distract them. Not only does that, but that's frustrating for the coach, because they put in a lot of time. Again, they have other jobs. They're out there for the love of the game. They're the professionals. We have to put the trust in them. And that's part of going back to what I said is, developing that relationship beforehand so you can identify. Now, there's some key points. Parents should never yell out bad things, obviously, from the sidelines. I know it might be difficult for many, but we must stick to that. Parents should cheer from the sidelines and also learn the names of other athletes, because that's a positive right there. And it increases that motivation. Other athletes, Sarah, wait, those aren't her parents, but they know who she is. That's exciting for her, right? And of course, parents should never yell out orders. Go over here, run over here, kick the ball here, jump, throw higher, whatever, because leave that to the coach. And it distracts and discourages all the other coaches. Would you agree?
Yeah. And what's interesting about it, there's two parts to this. One is I'm going to share a little story because I like to tell stories. So
stories.
my daughter, when she learned to play softball, they actually put her on a grade above or an age above. She was pretty good out there. Her mom was a very good softball player. And so she went out there. Now, the first time, her first at bat was like with real pitching, right? And it's like, okay, well, it's the first game of the season, fine. But it was more than that. It was opening day, first time ever in front of the crowd. And by the way, it was like, God bless America. Now batting me, right? It all happened at once. And my daughter was the first at bat of the season ever. So she goes to get up and I listen to coach, and coach says, hey, Mia, take the first pitch. Now, if you know baseball or softball, take the first pitch means don't swing, right? Just to get comfortable. And I kind of loved hearing that. I'm listening. It sounded great. Her mom was sitting on the other side, didn't hear it. And, mom said, hey, baby, you're a hitter, just like we practiced. Get those high hands, be ready, focus, and drive this ball. You're a hitter. You got this, right? Not bad things to say. But again, the first pitch comes in, and it's a perfect strike. And guess what Mia did? She didn't swing. So coach, who said, hey, good job, Mia, now you're ready. Dad, who listened, said, hey, now you're ready. And mom said, what happened? It was a perfect pitch. How come you didn't? And, so my daughter was set up her first at bat, having to decide between the mom that feeds her, and the coach who we're supposed to respect and value, right? So we really got to work on that. I know you've done a lot of stuff, and I want to dig a little deeper into this one. When you talk about all your studies about that relationship with the coach, what are some things that you think can do internally? I know we talk a lot about it in this article, but more just in terms of like what are your expectations as a mom, because you've got kids, with the coach? What happens there with you? Like,
in terms of what exactly? I mean, are you talking about when
what's a realistic expectation you can have of that coach?
Okay, well, I have to understand that we're all human and they're going to make mistakes. But even as a sport professional, not everybody is in the same. You might be a real estate agent, you might be somebody else. But what I want to know is that I can have the confidence in that coach, that they got my child's back. But I also have to have that confidence by developing that relationship ahead of time. That's why it's important, because if you don't develop it, then the thought of they're not doing the right play, they're not making the right call. So then that's what happens is I can interfere with that process because I don't have that relationship already set. So again, even for coaches listening to this, those are key points that you can take away is if your parents aren't going to get out there and develop that relationship with you, you got to get out there and do that for them. So
yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
And again, it's a village, and you want to have this to be a positive experience. We know that 60% of kids that sign up to play a sport quit after 2 seasons.
Yes.
And again, in the article we discussed, it's talking about stress of competition, right? Now, I've got an interesting perspective on this, and you may want to jump in a second, but I feel as though when you pay to play recreational sports, there should be some level of equal play. However, my good friend Michael Herbert, you know Dr. Herbert, he talks about he thinks there should be communism and socialism in sports because it should basically everybody gets to play. But we've talked about it also in that life's not fair. So we have to find a way where you earn it. As an example, Cheryl, if your son shows up to practice every day and works really hard, and my son shows up once in a while and he's usually late, doesn't work that hard, but maybe he's a better player, why do they get to play equal time? That's not fair.
That's difficult. I mean, for many, because then you've got the parents involved in that process. But my kid should be, my kid's better, my kid, or there's excuses, as to why that kid's not coming out. So fair play is, but again, I've spoken to many people about what is fair in sports.
Right.
I mean, what deems fairness, that can be pulled different ways. It's very difficult. So I think that would be a good podcast. Another one.
Another one. Well, here's what I think. I think as a coach, I think I would communicate early and set it up that, look, you're going to get to play X amount if you show up at practice, you have a good attitude and all that. And then you're going to get to play a little bit more if you're working hard at practice or you're contributing to the team or whatever, so that there's goals. Because if you and I work at the same company and I never show up and never do my job, I don't get the same check and a bigger office and a car. It doesn't work that way,
No, it just does not. And that's the great life lessons right there, right? I mean, you're going to get fired eventually. So, and you don't show up, then you don't get that time. And again, we've spoken about this several times is, laying the platform, laying the foundation ahead of time. So coaches communicate what they expect of the parents as well as the players. And that would be one of them.
And one of them to me is competition. When it's funny in the last, decade or so, when I start talking about competition, people go, and I go, well, hold on a second. Competition to me is play. I'm competitive. If you want to play checkers, I'm going to try to beat you. We'll fist bump or whatever it is when we're done and move on. But you got to teach to compete, because that's how we do this. We've created this land of followers and everything's okay. And parents, if you're out there listening, you can't be afraid to let your kids fail, because realistically, failure is how they learn. Failure is how they grow. Failure is how we all have gotten where we are, right?
Yeah.
So we have to find a way to embrace competition without creating a stressful environment, right?
Yes. And Kobe Bryant, right? He talked about failure. I think I even posted this on my Facebook, but really, what is failure? Does it even exist? If your athlete fails or the team fails as a whole, do they stop playing for the rest of the season? Do the parents stop showing up for the rest of the season? No, we continue to get better every time. And we might continue failing, but we fail to get better. And that means that you're still showing up. So did you really fail? No. When you fail is when you completely give up.
Well, so failure never becomes fatal till you blame somebody else. So we got to talk
Yeah.
about individual accountability. That's John Wooden. And when I got to work with number 16 for the 49ers, because I'm a 49er fan, Joe Montana said, fail fast, fail forward. And through sports, we have to teach that, fail forward. So in the competition side, what we have to realize is that this is the part that I want to get across to the parents. If I was a Major League Baseball player and I got out 7 out of 10 times for 10 years in a row, and I struck out half the times I got out, I'd be a Hall of Famer. I'd be one of the best to ever play the game. If I was in the NBA and I missed half the shots, right, for 10 years in a row, I'd be a Hall of Famer, 50%.
Yeah.
So in life, this is such a great opportunity to learn. So embrace the competition. Now, it's not saying we want to push the kids to fail and make it a negative experience, but instead embrace the failure and say, okay, what is our opportunity to learn from it? One of the things that I've found that as a parent that's really important is do not allow your child, when something happens, negative or failure, to blame anybody else.
No.
Right? Now, there's a way to hold them accountable. And we know that criticism without compassion is nothing but cruelty, right? Great coaches create positive change without causing resentment. So we have to create an environment that they feel safe to fail, knowing they're not going to necessarily be judged, but they are going to be held to the standards, to what we need for them to be successful, because that's where the growth comes from. So for me, as you work with your coach and you work with your kids, especially when they're little, embrace that opportunity and look at those failures. I always say, take those stumbling blocks and turn them into stepping stones as we go forward. Now, it's going to happen as you go through this process, right? That you're going to disagree with the coach sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes
absolutely.
they've got a philosophy and you're going, what the heck? So Cheryl, how are they going to approach that? What are they going to do?
But I have to ask really quick, but why? What is it that makes parents, even the parents that haven't been in the sport industry, maybe they never even played that sport. Maybe they ran track like me, but didn't play softball or something like that, right? Yeah. So why is it that they have a disagreement? What is your perspective on that?
I think sometimes we do two things. One is we have these glasses on, and the glasses that the coach wears, they have to see the team, they have to see everything. And as a parent, our glasses only see our child. And how dare you? And how come? And so rather than understanding, so Stephen Covey talks about seek to understand before being understood. As a parent, if I could go in and understand what is really going on, why is this coach telling my child this, and understand what the desired outcome is. And then the last part is trust. I have to trust you with my child.
Right. Yep. So, I mean, it's bound to happen, but I like that. I've always wondered that. I know from my perspective, it is just that, but I have to stand out because I also know a lot in sports. So I have to stop and realize that we're always going to have some type of disagreement with people in general, but many parents want to throw their input in, but what happens is it's a disruptive process. And then of course, what can happen, how they react to situations, and expose that to not only other parents and influencing them, but they expose that to their athlete as well as the team athlete. So we want to find, a proper time to communicate with the coach. We want to find the time away and not speak in front of other athletes, because that's a big thing. When other athletes are sitting there and you say, hey, coach, come here. Coach Aaron, come here really quick. I want to talk to you. I did not appreciate. They see your body mechanics. They see your movement. They see how you're talking. It's aggressive. You're not happy. And then all of a sudden it becomes an embarrassment to not only everybody else, but your athlete. Right. Now your athlete's embarrassed. Oh, that's my mom. Oh yeah. It's not good. Don't worry about it. And now everybody's picking on them. So parents should also always, if they're going to set up meetings because they disagreed with the coach, they should always set up a meeting and include the coach. And my last thing is that they should always allow the coach to, educate the parents on their decision as to why they did X, Y, and Z. And the parents need to be optimistic, open about it, because after all, we send our athlete to that coach. We put that trust in them at the beginning.
Right.
So we got to allow that trust to unfold.
And the key word is trust, right? So be careful what you say. It can and will be used against you, right? That's the fact. But I love how you mentioned that, because how you speak to the coach in a respectful manner. Yeah. We talked about before, being grateful as it all comes together. Here's another story. So my son, Mason, played football when he was little, 9 years old. The first 2 games, he caught 5 passes and 2 touchdowns, which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's thinking he's walking on cloud 9. Is
Oh, yeah.
game 3, it's raining. And now it's raining, and the coach decides during the game that they don't throw the ball at all. So Mason doesn't realize this. And during the game, so the game's over. I think we won the game like 9-6 or something. It was a low scoring game. And my son played, but he was sad after the game. So I called him over. And football, you kind of hang out all day and watch everything. So I said, "What's the matter, bud?" He goes, and he kind of almost had a tear in his eye. He was tearing up. He goes, "Coach doesn't trust me. He didn't pass me the ball."
Oh.
And I said, "Wow, man. Okay." Now, my first thought was, okay, do I go talk to coach? But the problem is that, like, it's going to undermine everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I told Mason, I said, "Go get a hot dog." And I went over to coach. Now, here's the crazy part. Coach played football. He's 6'8", Coach Thomas, 320-pound man, big dude, right? So I go, "Hey, coach, you got a second?" And no one was around. I said, "Hey, you got a second?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Hey, Mason's kind of unhappy about the game. He's got a question. You got a minute? If I can get him to come over." He said, "Sure." So I grabbed Mason, we go over. And the funny thing, Mason had his white shirt and he was eating his hot dog and he had mustard on his shirt, of course, because the kids do. And so what I love about coach, and this is a learning for coach, coach got on a knee and said, "Hey, Mason, what's going on, buddy?" And Mason said, "Coach, you didn't throw me the ball. You don't trust me. You don't trust me." And coach said, Mace, no. The quarterback's hands are small and the ball was wet. And we didn't want to throw it because we were afraid that it would have slipped out of his hands. It could have been a fumble.
Yeah.
And so what a great opportunity. Mason got the message. We heard it together. We worked together. And now that respect and value. And Mason said, "Hey," speaking of confidence, he said, "Hey, I would have caught it. My dad throws the ball to me in a pool all the time. I would have caught it, coach."
Yeah.
Which I love the confidence, right?
Yeah. And, here's the thing. I remember as a former athlete that I always wanted I wanted the support. I'll just say the support from my coaches. So anytime I felt like I let my coaches down, or I'll just say coach for one, it was difficult on me. So in that situation, I would have been worried. I would have been concerned the whole time. Like, is coach mad at me? Did I not perform to my best? So communication as a whole is, I think, for this whole topic, communication and trust. I mean, that's really what we're discussing, right? Parents need to have that communication to develop that trust with the coach, as well as the coach and the parents. And, I think that as parents, we want to fight all of our kids' battles. We want to be in there. We're like, I'm ready to take that on. Why didn't you pass the ball? But at the same time, that's where we need to stop and realize that we allow we send our athletes, our children, to these coaches, and we want to put that trust in them that they're going to do a good job. By doing that, we go back at the very beginning of the season and we get to know the coaches, because a lot of these things, yelling on the sidelines, disruption, disagreements, they will, most of the time be erased. They won't happen. So,
well, yeah. and clarity is what we're about.
Yeah.
Sure. The last one that I think is very important, in the article, we talk about this a bit, and I think it's important, which is respect, right? And I know it's a two-way street. I personally believe in life, we need to give respect until someone proves they don't deserve it, right? You don't have to earn my respect. They're willing, hey, parents, they're willing to volunteer their time to coach your child, give them the respect, right, that's due.
Yeah.
And then I think part of that is also that it's not just the coach. Respect the game, respect the opponents, respect the officials, and remember that you're a role model out there, and they will emulate what you do. So if you're on the sideline and you're yelling at them, at the officials, or yelling at the coaches, the kids are going to see that same thing, and it's going to undermine this whole fabric we're talking about from the very beginning. So for me, I think respect is giving me a big one. There's going to be a time where you're going to not agree with what's going on, but for me, the word that I would use is trust, and trust the process. And you know what? Life's not fair sometimes. Someone runs a red light in front of you, things happen, this and that, and it goes forward. Someone gets a raise, someone gets whatever. It's part of life, and that's part of this.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's really important as we go through this, if you want your parent, you as a parent, want your child to keep playing youth sports all the way through to potentially get a chance to play in high school or college, or maybe get paid, help this to become their passion, help this to become their journey, support them through the things we talked about in the article, which you'll get a chance to read, hopefully, and of what we talked about today. So as a parting piece, Cheryl, what do you got? Just anything you want to wrap up?
I would say goals. We got to throw in goals there. What every parent, their original idea, their why do you put kids in sports? So we got to really identify that before you go that process. Because I think for many, it's, oh, well, this so-and-so or my friend's kids all play sports.
Right.
Everybody would say to me, Cheryl, I would think that your kids are going to be in sports, every sport. You're going to be one of those. But you know what? That's not where it's at for me. It is the process. And I respect the process of what sports offers. And I think that for every parent, you really have to identify what your goal is. Is it for lifelong learning? Is it to develop relationships? Is it to develop strength and whatever else, right? But identify that process and then move forward with those goals and why, and continue remembering, going back to the basics of why you did that, why you put your kids in sports, and allow them to grow. Failure, allow them to fail.
And if you can make sure that you're on the same page with your child with those goals.
Yeah.
It's not just what you want, but they want, and going forward.
What they want. Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Well, we got our exact time. We kept it right on time. Look at that. Imagine that. So Cheryl, I've got a couple places. Gravitationalperformance.org. Obviously, that's where they can get a lot, right, of information. So that would be good. Social media. Where's the best place for them to catch you on social media?
Coach McCormick and School of Sports Science.
School of Sports Science.
Instagram. I'm sorry, I didn't even say that. Instagram. I don't even know. I really use Facebook very minimally. So it'd probably be Gravitational Performance, but Instagram is one of the best. So
okay. And if they want to email you direct, gravitationalperformance@gmail.com.
That's correct.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the time. If you want to reach us, obviously you've got the National Academy of Athletics.com. You can email all the social media platforms, Coach Locks and all that. And thank you for your time. Thank you so much for listening today. And I'm excited. I really am. I think that with this information, parents, you can gravitate toward this, take a look at it a little bit and see how it can fit in. Own what's yours to own, let go of the rest of it. And we hope that you teach the kids, help encourage the kids to play and have fun out there. So thanks. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.